BookTube, and today I'm doing my TBR for February. I will not be doing anywhere near the amount of books that I had on my TBR for the summer because I wasn't at work. However, I will possibly be slotting some of those in. I've given myself a 5-book TBR, so I usually read about, I think for February it's 9 books because it's a little bit shorter, but usually read about 10 books a month. So my TBR for this month of February starts with, and I'm terrible at saying his name, Solzhenitsyn. It's A Day in the Life of Ivan Denisovich. This has been on my, I bought this a while ago. I really wanted to read it. It's tiny. It's only 144 pages. But in order to read my depressing Russian literature that my best friend is such a fan of, I will be splitting it 10 pages for 10 pages with Interesting Times, the Discworld book. And I've noticed something really interesting about the cover of this book that I've never noticed before. The whiz on his hat on the front cover is backwards. I don't know why. It's right on the back because it's like a mirror image going through. Why is this so? Anyway, this is the next one in the series that I'm up to, in the Discworld series that I'm up to, and it's a Rincewind book, and I love Rincewind, so I'm quite keen. But I'm going to go read, because I've flipped through this. This has no chapters. Discworld never has any chapters. I'm going 10 pages for 10 pages just to keep the depression out. This is set in a gulag in Siberia in the 50s, and it is literally a day in the life of the character Ivan. Things I've heard about this when it came out, it was truly shocking to actually have an insight into these forced labor camps in Russia after the Second World War. So this was a bit mind-blowing for the people in Western society that these things exist. I've discovered something very interesting that I have said mistakenly on a couple of previous ones, that the counterweight continent isn't a representation of Australia, it's a representation of China. The XXXX is another place out near the counterweight continent, and that is the last continent, and that is a representation of Australia. So obviously I haven't read this before, so I am quite keen to iron that issue out in my brain. Apologies. Next one on my to be read list, and I actually mentioned this author in my to be reads of my classics, and that's Margaret Atwood, and I want to read The Penelope. And this I bought secondhand, beautiful hardback copy, and I have absolutely no idea what it's about, and that's the way I like it. I recently picked this one up because I'd been looking for a copy for a while. I found that I couldn't buy it on Kindle, which is a shame because it is ginormous, and that's the Dragonbone Chair by Tad Williams. I feel like I've left out a section of the fantasy world by never having read any Tad Williams. I heard about the Dragonbone Chair late last year when I started watching BookTube, and I think I need this in my life. Hopefully I'll get through it this month, but it is truly ginormous. The last book on my February to be read list is one that I again have been recommended, seen on BookTube, and I have mentioned it on this channel before, but now it's time for me to read it, and that is The Theatre of the Gods. It was recommended to, I got a recommendation from Kitty G, and she said it's like Douglas Adams, and that's pretty much all I need. It's a space opera. It's got a philosopher, a heretical physicist, the perhaps the greatest human explorer of all ages, who took a ship full of children on a frightening voyage through the dimensions filled with deadly surprises, assisted by a teenage captain, a brave deaf boy, a cunning blind girl, and a sultry botanist. Sounds great. So that is my to be read list for February. If any of these books are your favorites, hit me up below and tell me why you love them so much. I will do a wrap up at the end of February to see how I went with all these books. So thank you for watching and happy reading.